Well, it surely has been a while. Well, I know that this is a couple weeks after we had to release a Superman, and we are about a week and a bit after Fantastic Four came out. I was gonna post this the week after, just being like, okay, there's a couple spoilers that happened at the end. Then I had my computer crash out on me again, and I had to wait till that got charged up, so that was fun. And then I decided, since it's coming so close to Fantastic Four, we're going to do something a little different. So, because these rival studios are coming out, they're making these big things here, and these are the two big hits of the year for them, I thought it'd be a cool thing to kind of compare them a little bit. Now, there's not going to be a lot of comparing with me and my uncle Colin, who's going to be in this episode for both the Fantastic Four and Superman review, but I'll do a little bit of a comparison at the end, do my final little rankings, and then I'll also come at the end to show you what's up. So, I apologize for the breaks that come in between. We'll try and edit it. I'm going to be editing out as best I can, so enjoy this very long episode, but it's going to be a very entertaining one because we get to talk about two great movies in Superman and Fantastic Four First Steps. Enjoy. Warning. Nerd mode. Live from the basements of losers, this is the Cantina Cuisine. Well, welcome back to Cantina Cuisine. It's a little late, but we are here to wrap Superman week, month, whatever you want to call it. But we are ready to dive into one of the biggest blockbuster movies of the summertime, if you want to call it that, because someone in this room is not gay,
halfway there. I find it complicated saying sorry we're late after you posted 3 Superman recaps in a week that were recorded 2 months ahead of time.
Well, still, we're here to celebrate James Gunn's start to the quote-unquote movie start to the DCEU, because we did have the Suicide Squad technically, because it's still technically in his universe because Peacemaker's still there, and we've technically had Peacemaker Season 1, and we've technically had Creature Commandos as the start. But now we're getting to the good stuff. We have Superman, starring David Cornsmith, Rachel Brosnahan, and also the great Nicolas Hoult, who steals the show. We are ready to talk about how murderous he is, and maybe some characters that might not be should have been here. But my name is Patrick, and hashtag supercrap.
My name is Colin, and I also think the Mighty Crabjoys suck.
Okay, I don't remember that be happening in the movie, but
that's the band when they're talking about punk music.
Right.
And Superman would listen as the Mighty Crabjoys are a fictional band, but they're clearly modeled after someone like Blink 182. And Superman would like Blink 182, and Superman would be wrong in liking Blink 182. So I'm with you, Lois. If that's a joke about Blink 182, Blink 182 also sucks.
Hey. It's not like the other jokes that people are trying to think about James Gunn making about the Snyder fans. But we are okay. So we're coming in. We've had a couple days to calm down. We wanted to record this over the weekend, but we just couldn't because we had lives, and so we couldn't. But we've had a couple days to cool down. We've had a couple days to think about it. I have seen this movie twice. I don't know if Colin went out to go see it again. Shame on you, Colin. But I am still of the opinion that this is fantastic. I don't think it's perfect. I still think that there's some flaws in it, but it is a James Gunn movie. The characters are amazing. The story is great. There is a little bit of a twist that they've actually been hitting in the trailers that doesn't really get to show how the conflict starts, which you alluded to me that was kind of a little bit similar to what Smallville did. But I am honestly really happy with this product. It is, again, like we said, it's like I said, it's not the greatest. Like, I've rated it, I think 4.5 or 4 stars. But I mean, what's not to love about this movie? This is literally a mixture of all the Superman movies that we've gotten with the style of James Gunn, which sometimes doesn't work, but a lot of the times it does. We get a lot of cool shots. We get a lot of great characters. Because James Gunn, as a director, I sorry that we're just talking about James Gunn here. We're going to talk about everyone else in just a second, but his style and his, motif is to build characters. and that is his biggest strength. And I think that this movie has really gone to that strength of him, like, oh, we've already had Superman, but he's going to be built up a little bit more. We have characters like Mr. Terrific, who hasn't really appeared in a lot of DC movies or TV shows, except for like the Justice League Unlimited series, which
Arrow had him.
that's where I got my stuff in, which I love, and I have a little bit of a thing that we're gonna do after at the end. But again, like these characters, like these undermining characters are amazing, which is why I'm excited for shows like by Booster Gold or the shows like Lanterns that's gonna come out in a couple years. It is got me at a good mood and might be transitioning over to being a DC fan because of how well I think that this is going. And again, we've got a lot of good success in the box office. Critics are loving it. Fans are loving it even more. But there is some people that might seem a little bit more like think it's okay. That's including my dear uncle here, who has trashed a lot of people's praises about this movie. But I mean, Colin, what do you think as a loyal Superman fan? I guess
As the biggest Superman fan that you would know.
Yeah.
Like I've said this on the other ones. Like Superman's not just my number one. He's my number one, faster than a speeding bullet. My number one superhero. Always has been.
Which is probably why you're more critical of Superman.
Well,
projects,
like I thought that, but first I just want to say I'm not opposed to this movie. I'm in the same position with this that you were on Superman the movie. We just kind of swapped positions. Like I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I said there's things about it that I really don't like. There's directions it's going in, which I'm like, I don't think that's what I want. But a lot of my complaints are the same type of complaints I have about all modern superhero movies. And it ultimately comes down to, I don't care about you building a universe, especially doing it so quickly. I want to get back to superheroes having their own standalone superhero movies. And it's so funny that so many people were extremely critical of the DCEU for essentially doing the opposite of what Marvel did. And why should they be copying Marvel? They should be doing something different. I think most people I know who are fans of the DCEU appreciate it for not being Marvel, for being a little bit more realistic, maybe sometimes too realistic, but Marvel can also at times be a little bit too silly. Marvel at times can be a lot too silly. Let's watch Thor Love and Thunder again.
Oh,
rate that.
No, put it in the trash.
Ant-Man Quantumania. Like they've made some big missteps themselves. I didn't mind it, but a lot of my issues with this will echo issues I have with Quantumania, which is that in the end, it depends. What do you want to go in for this for? When I watch a superhero movie, I want it to be that superhero movie. I'm sort of over and done with the whole team up thing. I mean, it's fine if you do Avengers. It's fine if you do Justice League. I sort of said at the end of, what was it, Man of Steel? Like, I'm okay if you just move on from Justice League. You want to reboot the universe, fine. But like, at some point, you just got to let the heroes be in their own movies. And that's why I have so much appreciation for the original Superman movie, for the first 2 Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. Back before they had the ability to cross over everything and felt like they had to cross over everything. My second issue being, a lot of people love the fact that this is the most comic book movie ever made. It is literally like watching a live action comic book. That's all fine and good. I can get that from a comic book. I can get that from an animated movie. If I'm watching a live action movie, I want it to feel more like a live action movie. I'm sort of the opinion, I'm like, a live action movie of a superhero should feel no different than a live action movie of something that was completely fictional. And if you're making a fictional movie, you wouldn't necessarily make it this cartoony and this, comic booky. And it's just, it's difference in taste. I still appreciate a lot of what this movie did. But I'm sure we're going to get to some of the stuff I didn't appreciate, which, funny enough, even the people who are like over the moon in love with this movie seem to all agree, yeah, there's some things that just really didn't work.
And I think what some people can excuse, because there's a big complaint. I think that's there people went around, and I think you even mentioned that there is too much going on. And
it's busy. It is very busy.
It is big. Here is why I don't think it's very busy. Okay, the characters are likable. The actors are amazing. Like opposed to you, I love Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner was fantastic. He's just like he was in the comics, just a big douchebag who's just funny all around. Hawk Girl should have got. I feel like that she got a little bit thrown in there just to appease
very
the crowds.
thrown in there.
But I do think that because we got Mr. Terrific, and I think because we were exploring a little bit more of the pocket dimensions, which was revealed in trailers, so this is not a spoiler for people. So shut up. Um, I think that this was needed for Mr. Terrific, just being like he's the smartest guy in the world, and now we're gonna get introduced to him in a new TV show, probably that's gonna come out in maybe the next couple years, hopefully. But I do like the busyness. I don't think it's like that busy. I think because the actors are just that good at putting out these characters and not trying to steal the spotlight, like they get their moments. Like Guy Gardner gets that whole thing at the end with the whole middle finger and all that. A hot girl gets her moment, which we won't spoil, but it's actually well, I mean, she kills the guy like she in a very brutal way, in a very funny like transition scene. And then Mr. Terrific gets this awesome scene in the beach, which the trailers does not do it justice. Like it is awesome. It's typical James Gunn, which I love. But then it's like the whole movie is still focused on Superman. It's just that we just have to have other people to come along and help him out, just because Superman at this point in time is realizing he can't do this alone. He needs other people to help him out, and I think that this movie demonstrates that perfectly. In an era where Superman has been doing this for the last 3 years, we have a prologue, which is kind of like a Star Wars kind of thing, where James Gunn explains what happens, like over
It's a lot of
3 millennia
threes.
ago. Over like 3 millennium ago, the first metahuman came in. Over 300 years ago, Krypton sent their Jor-El sent blah 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 blah, and then 3 years ago, Superman became a thing, and then over to the present day, Superman lost his first battle, which I think is a character growth for him, and I think it's a character growth throughout the whole movie that will probably lead up into Justice League movie, which I am a little bit opposed to having it like come in this quickly, but I do think that having the Superman character, being able to grow, being able to depend on others to help him out, I think is lovely. And especially when we get to Crypto, because Crypto gets an awesome scene as well, where she's chasing all the robots. But I do believe, like, you have to look at this in a picture where Superman just needs to be helped by others because he's not. He is the Man of Steel, but he still can't do this on his own because he still gets his butt kicked by Ultraman. He gets his butt kicked by the Hammer of Barovia. He also struggling with this kaiju that comes in here. He's struggling and he needs help. He's the Man of Steel, but he still needs help, which is why I think that this movie is going for. And I think that's why these characters have a little bit more prominent scenes, and maybe people are thinking that this is just busy. But because they're not looking at the picture that James Gunn is trying to build here, which is that Superman needs help. Is that this universe, this Superman, he's just like human. He's the rest of us. That's what the movie was mostly going for, was his human side of the character. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll disagree with most of what you said, but I'll do it by saying I get where you're coming from. To me, the biggest issue with the busyness in this movie is too many characters and trying to put them in too much. The better way to do this is to decrease the roles or decrease the amount of characters. Yes, it works to say Superman can't do this alone, but we have to first see Superman try to do it by himself. And we never really get that in this movie because this Justice Gang or whatever, pre-Justice League, basically Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and Hawkgirl, they exist in this universe and they know Superman already. So we missed the story of Superman's trying to do this himself and he isn't able to. There's literally a sequence in the middle of this movie, probably not even the middle of it, maybe even not even, maybe barely over a third of the way through the movie, where there's a giant thing going on outside. And Superman, this was that first image that was released. If people remember, I always love whenever they release the first image before a trailer's out or anything, and that was that shot of Superman basically untying his boots, sitting in an apartment. He got this giant, glowing creature outside or whatever. The whole point of that scene is that everybody else is already doing all the fighting. And he literally even just as a throwaway comment says, don't worry, they got this handled. That's the story I wanted. I wanted a story that culminated with, I need your help. I can't do this myself. I think that we get there sort of with like the Daily Planet crew, but this is again where I'm like, James Gunn tried too many things in this movie. This started off so strong. The first act is really about what James Gunn teased this movie was about, which is that Clark Kent is trying to be a reporter. This movie starts with that. It is about Clark Kent. What is the moral dilemma behind you're reporting on things that you're literally taking part in and you're hiding your identity? There's that scene that's in all the trailers, which is basically the interview sequence between Lois and Superman.
Yeah.
those scenes, I'm like, wow, this is where the movie's going. I can't wait. But then they literally drop that. And what we get in the end is we get a little bit of a conclusion to it where Lois and Jimmy and Perry, by the way, you want to talk about somebody who literally could have been dropped for this movie and nobody would have noticed. Perry White, there's a huge waste,
Yeah.
especially because the actor they got to play Perry White's a very good actor who's been in a lot of prominent things.
Yeah.
He was in the Jack Ryan TV series, which was 4 years on the air, and a huge show.
Yeah.
They really could have used him more. That's the story we got, but even that didn't get a moment of Superman being like, I can't do this myself. Can you guys do this? Or them saying, we're going to do this because Superman needs us. Everybody in this movie who eventually does pitch in, so Superman's not on his own, it's not even, they're not even passing comment about it. And that's what this movie needed more of. The second problem with the busyness is that you have a giant section of this movie, particularly being the middle section of the movie, which you sort of alluded towards, where Superman is non-existent. And it's all about let's show off all these other characters. That's where, to me, this stops being a Superman movie and it starts being a trailer for projects that are still to come. Some of those things I'm excited about, some of them are not. I'm going to tell you probably the one character, and it's not even Hawk Girl, who is the biggest waste in this movie and literally only exists to tease something still to come, is the engineer. The engineer did not need to be in this movie. You have two adversaries for Superman to fight, and the other one, well, I think people kind of already know. I won't say it, but people kind of already know. That is what this movie is based on. The engineer exists only in this movie to try to sell the Authority, a project that James Gunn's developing that people don't really have an interest in. You cut the engineer out of this movie. You make this a movie where there is no Justice Gang. There's a couple of little... Cut Hawk Girl. To me, that's a disappointment because I'm a huge fan of Hawkman. I will literally show you as I stand up here. I have like Hawkman hardcover editions right here. Like next to Superman, Hawkman is in my like top 5 at least DC characters.
Yeah.
And Hawk Girl goes along with that. Hawkman doesn't exist in this. What is Hawk Girl there for? We get none of her backstory. We get nothing to get us excited about her character going forward. The engineer is there only to tease something still to come. Mr. Terrific is the one that really stands out. And I will give a lot of people who are praising Ed Gathke, the guy who plays him. He had previously been in X-Men First Class. He was Darwin. He was the first one to die.
Yeah.
He's come out and actually said, when they made that movie, they told me when they were killing me off, your character will come back. And he's like, and I never came back. So a lot of people are very excited because Mr. Terrific is giving this good actor a chance to really step forward. And he is amazing in this movie. But does the movie need him? I don't know.
I think so.
Mr. Terrific's another character that, like, in the comics, like, I read a bunch of, probably about 10, 15 years ago, like, before he'd even been traded on, because the TV series Arrow did Mr. Terrific already.
Oh,
They did a more serious, a more, obviously, real-world version of him, but he was on, like, probably more than half the series. You know, I think he came into the 4th season. He was there almost all the way till the end.
Was
this
he
is a
good,
better version.
or...
He was good, but it was an interpretation of it, you know?
Oh,
This
okay.
is Mr. Terrific from the comics, maybe with a little bit more humor, which is James Gunn's style, fine. But if the purpose of this is we want to get people excited about a Mr. Terrific character, fine, you got me sold. But I think that you maybe hurt the importance of Superman in his own movie a little bit by putting in all these characters at once. Pick one of them. One character. Have the other ones literally show up as a cameo. How great would this have been if you just had Mr. Terrific as the only one there, and then in the end you see a cameo and Nathan Fillion's there as Guy Gardner, and you've got I can't remember her name, the one playing Hawk Girl.
Yeah.
They show up as a cameo. That's again a better way to do this. But in the end, my 2 points being, I think that you put too much in this movie that does take away from Superman, even though James Gunn said they did a better job with it than I feared. I kind of feared that this would be like Superman is nothing in his movie. It's not that bad, but it still is too much for me. And the second part being, there's no resolution to the things they wanted to make the theme of this movie. I don't feel like they nailed it.
I personally have to disagree with you because I think they do nail it just because we get the final fight with Superman and Mr. Terrific, and then we also get a little bit of crypto there.
But the way I position this, the way I'm rewriting this, and I'm not being what do you call it, a backseat driver or Monday morning quarterback or anything like that. But I watch movies and I think, oh, what would have made this better? Just think about what personally would have made it better for me is if you had a moment, one moment where Superman's like, I can't do this myself, and they're like, we got your back, just watch us. And then you have that same scene with Lois and the Daily Planet crew, and none of that existed. And when it's all over and done with, you could have even gotten away with just a moment of Superman just being like, wow, I didn't realize how much I needed other people, but I'm glad you guys are here. Can I just quickly interject and say, I stressed all the way back on the Christopher Reeve Superman the movie, Superman Returns. I like my Superman corny. I want him to be corny. They got some of the corniness here. There's one moment in particular where he makes a save and there's like a woman and a child in the building and he literally turns around and he's like, ma'am, are you and your child all right? Okay, just checking. Which totally takes me back to Christopher Reeve. I think it was during the first Superman movie when was it the sequence where the what was it? The dam was breaking and everything, and the earthquake was going off, and there's all these sparks going everywhere, and he shuts off these breakers, and he literally turns,
Yeah.
"Gentlemen, is that man all right?" Like that's what that moment was to me. So yes, you got some corniness with Superman, and they didn't overdo it on the humor and quippiness, which is another thing I was worried about.
And I think even like to even point out the humor and quippiness, I think the humor in this movie is awesome. Like I think that again, it's James Gunn style, which is like kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy and maybe a little bit more of his earlier work as
But
well.
toned down, which is
But
good.
toned down, which is awesome. And I think you even were telling me like even when we were going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I can remember where you were like, I'm hesitant because I think that James Gunn is too serious, too funny. But
Yeah.
then we go out and we see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is a bit of a mixture between seriousness and funny. And we both came out of here actually like, I want to see a Superman movie with James Gunn because he actually nailed the seriousness and and funny all together and balances it really perfectly. I don't know if you remember that, but I thought that was pretty cool just to have you like being like, yeah, I want this now. And
Yeah,
so
and to be honest, like I'm not the hugest fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. I like it, but a lot of people are like so over the moon crazy about it. The first one I think is a very flawed movie. The second one I thought was slightly better. The third one is the one where I'm like, okay, this is good. This is what I wanted. So yeah, Guardians. I think he's developed in superhero movies. So the one thing, not to cut you off too much, but the one thing is James Gunn, I don't think has ever been completely comfortable making PG superhero movies because his background is in the same style, very over the top, very graphic, but like extremely R-rated, violent. I'd say more grotesque, like cringy type stuff,
which is what we
horror
got in
movies.
the Suicide Squad in 2021.
Yeah, and when I saw Suicide Squad, I'm like, well, this is what James Gunn's comfortable doing. But I feel like throughout the Guardians movies, particularly on Guardians 3, and even with this, he's finally settled into, I think I've cracked how to not make something a hard R-rated movie and still make it good.
And again, like it's evolved with the characters again because James Gunn does a great job with most of these characters. We've already glossed over how much we love Nathan Fillion and Mr. Terrific, but what about the main cast? Jimmy Olsen, he's
Yeah.
okay. Like I feel like that he had a couple good
I loved
moments.
him.
He was. I feel like he could have been in. I feel like you said for Perry White. I feel like he could have been in there more, just because he's just the best friend of Clark Kent. You've also mentioned before, like Catty Brandt and whatever the other girls are.
Cat Grant.
Cat Grant, she's wasted. So I feel like that
Yeah.
I'm inclined to say that she's a little bit wasted. Same with
I, am gonna
Lombard.
I'm
Same with
gonna quickly interject here on both of
Yeah.
those because I did have opinions of that. Cat Grant in the comics, she's not a hugely prominent character, but she's always there, and she
Yeah.
serves the purpose of being the opposite of Lois Lane. Lois Lane loves Superman. She likes Clark Kent, but she's indifferent on him. Cat Grant couldn't care less about Superman, but she's got a thing for Clark Kent, and she's definitely an antagonist in the way that like she's not a viable love interest for Clark Kent. It's basically like, yeah, this woman would not survive Cat Grant, you know?
Mhm.
They included moments in here where, particularly the moment where she's kind of flirty with Clark, where I'm like, oh, okay, they get what this character is. Steve Lombard, again, just sort of a side character, but the one thing they get in this is Steve Lombard is that guy. If anybody has ever worked in a large environment, there's always that one person who is a complete jerk, who is just horrible to be around, thinks they're the coolest, the funniest person in the world, who does nothing but tear other people down and insult them, but then basically makes a fool of themselves in the process. They at least had moments with both of those characters, but you also could have done without them in this movie. That's more of that, like, did you need these characters to actually tell your story? But what they did with them, I was okay with.
And then obviously we also got Perry White, which could have been in a couple more scenes because he was actually pretty good in this movie. And then there's the main three. Let's first talk about Lois Lane. Lois Lane, this is probably one of the biggest changes that we got to her character for a Superman movie, was she knows that Superman is Clark Kent's Superman, and like you said before, she's more interested in Superman than Clark Kent. I think this movie actually shows a little bit more that she is still interested in Superman more than Clark Kent, and just having the whole story being around the relationship just being a little bit of a soggy spot. And I also think that she was funny. Like, I thought she was really great in the Justice Gang scene where she was just roasting Nathan Fillion's haircut, which I love. And I think that she's like I think she's she gets the original Lois Lane from Christopher Reeve's era of Superman, which is awesome. And then we get David Korsmith, who I think is perfect in this role. I do think that this movie lacks a lot of Clark Kent. We only get maybe a couple scenes of him. Like, we only get the Daily Planet and then that interview.
And that's the best stuff. That's where some of my disappointment is.
And that's where I think that we could have gotten a little bit more Clark Kent. And because those stuff that was perfect. And I think even the whole switch in that interview scene from Clark Kent to Superman, just with his voice change, was so perfect. I thought the editing with that was great. And then that interview scene, say what you want, it's probably one of the funniest scenes in the movie. Just having Lois just drag into Superman, just being an antagonist to him in that one scene, which is awesome. And then him just taking it that well, just being like, no, I actually think I'm doing pretty good here. I think I'm getting answered the questions perfectly. I think I got this all down. And then he just storms off, she's just being like, you're doing what you always do. You're whiny, you're crying, you're just being a little wimp. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm tired. I'm really tired.
But it was serious at the same time. It had that good balance between it, you know?
Yeah. And then there's the main star of the show, Nicolas Hoult. Oh my goodness. He is the best Lex Luthor I have ever seen. He is so good. And the way that they twisted him to being a madman. The first half of the movie, it's just him being a kind of a comic book kind of style for Lex Luthor. Just being like, I'm so obsessed with Superman, but I won't go too far. Then we get to the what's the pocket universes where Superman is being held prisoner. We get this random guy on this is not that much of a spoiler because this is proving a point where he just murders him in cold blood, which is him. He looks like Nicholas Hoult is looking like he's having a ball with him, but he is such a menace. And then throughout the last half of the movie, his facial expressions, everything that leads up to him just being this monologue, just being like, we don't need you. You're actually a detriment to the society. And just having this whole plan, just being kind of like Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor, where he wants to take half of a certain part of land for himself. And so I think that this is probably the best Lex Luthor we've gotten. Sorry, Gene Hackman. Sorry, Kevin Spacey. I think Nicolas Hoult takes the cake here. Just because we have a perfect mix of him being menacing and him being funny. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about the main three?
I'll get to Nicolas Hoult last because he deserves to be the headliner here.
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
I do want to quickly comment on Jimmy Olsen. Skylar Gisondo, who plays him. So I was familiar with him from a movie he made a couple of years ago called Licorice Pizza, which if I were to rank the best movies of this decade, I mean, I think I mentioned the movie Parasite to you when we did the Mickey 17 review. That would be number one. Licorice Pizza might be my number two. It is if you ever are even familiar with George Lucas's American Graffiti, which was the movie made before Star Wars, it was the original teen comedy, but not like the teen comedies you get today, a very well-written, a character comedy drama. Licorice Pizza is a throwback to that. Skylar Gisondo played a character who's supporting in it, but the exact opposite of what you expect Jimmy Olsen to be. He was playing an actor who was basically so full of himself and so cocky and confident and had so much swagger that he basically could just talk to a woman and they'd be in love with him, like a young guy, teenager who would be picking up, middle-aged women. That's the type of character he was. And when he was cast as Jimmy Olsen, the weirdest thing happened. I'm like, oh, that guy from Licorice Pizza. The only thing I knew him from, he was playing the opposite of Jimmy Olsen, but yet I got it. As soon as they said they were casting him, I'm like, this guy could still pull it off somehow. What's so interesting in this movie, and your Auntie Jamie, she actually disagreed with me. She said, oh, I didn't like that whole thing because basically he's like a ladies' man in this movie.
Yeah.
And that's not what you expect from Jimmy Olsen. But the way it's played, this is why it's so important the way that an actor actually portrays something. Skylar Gazzato plays this in a way where he's oblivious. This is almost an asexual being. You know, there's I won't spoil it, but there's kind of a joke about a character who's in love with him in this movie, and everybody else is basically being like, she's in love with you. And he's like, oh yeah, it's such a pain. And there's even a moment where they're like, oh, your hot ex-girlfriend. And he's like, hot? Like, he doesn't even comprehend that a woman would be attractive. That's an interesting interpretation of Jimmy Olsen. This is like, he's a nerdy guy just because he's clueless about the opposite sex. He's got away with them, but he's completely clueless. And I love that different way of interpreting it. Having him be a reporter here, I mean, as a purist, I'd love to see him be a photographer, maybe who's dabbling in it, at least have him with a camera at some point. But he carried the load here for what he did have. Rachel Brosnahan, she actually probably has the most serious character in this movie and the least amount of comedy. And I'm glad you pointed out the few funny moments she had, because they're sort of few and far between here, which is weird because Rachel Brosnahan, she came from comedy. I mean, that TV show, you've probably never seen it, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel,
No.
that she was on. It was like one of the original Amazon shows, and she won like I don't even know how many awards for that show over the 6 years it was on the air. She basically is playing a woman in the 60s whose husband leaves her, and to kind of deal with her grief and deal with her frustration, she becomes a stand-up comedian with no experience being a stand-up comedian. So she came from playing the comic actor on a show to be in a movie where she's the most serious one. And she handles both of it perfectly. I would not go as far as say she's the best Lois Lane ever. I don't know if she'd even be in my top 2, maybe top 3. I don't know. But she does well for this movie, and particularly the scenes she has in that interview scene, like so good. David Corenswet, I'm sort of in the middle on him. I think he's great for this interpretation of Superman, but I don't really see what would be the best way to put this. To me, he's going to be a Pierce Brosnan, where if you're familiar with James Bond, Pierce Brosnan he's the perfect guy in the middle. To me, he's the number 2 James Bond of all time, but that kind of goes to my point here. Even somebody who loves Pierce Brosnan like me cannot really say Pierce Brosnan is the greatest Bond of all time. You've always got Sean Connery over you. Or if you're on the more serious note, you've always got Daniel Craig as your number 1.
Yeah.
I think David Corenswet's always going to be that guy near the top, but in the middle. I find it hard to believe.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, how are you supposed to fight against Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill? Like, how are you going to do that? Like,
and like Henry,
it's a hard battle to
those guys
fight
are the embodiments. And people want to say that like Henry Cavill, his character was written wrong. I don't think he was at all. It was written for a different interpretation. We kind of talked a lot about that on Man of Steel. But he was the embodiment of Superman. And I still see David Corenswet more as Clark Kent than I do as Superman.
Yeah.
I could say the same for Brandon Routh. It's funny because right after we saw this movie, or I think it was before we saw this movie, I was talking to your aunt, and I was saying, which is my wife, by the way, not another auntie. I was saying to her, I'm like, if I were to pick my favorite Superman of all time, is Christopher Reeve. If I were to pick my favorite Clark Kent, it would be Christopher Reeve. But who do I think played Clark Kent the best and who had the best Clark Kent? I would say Brandon Routh. Because Brandon Routh perfectly took what Chris Reeve did and put a spin on it. I'm still waiting to see David Corenswet's spin. I'm not opposed to him. I think that with a couple more movies, he could develop into being great. But I'm not as floored with him. In a movie like this, if Superman's not the one guy you're thinking about, maybe you haven't hit the ball out of the park yet. Wendell Pierce, as I said, Perry White, totally wasted in this movie. Watch Jack Ryan, the TV show. Watch the TV show The Wire he was on, even for comedy. I remember the first thing I really saw him was the Michael J. Fox show. Michael J. Fox did like a comeback TV series where he played his boss, and he was so funny on that. And that's what I kept thinking of when I thought about Perry White. They must have cut all of his scenes from this movie because like I could barely even notice he was in this. And by the way, he's not the other guy in the movie. Let's just remind people of that. But that joke that me and Patrick and his auntie Jamie, I know. But yeah, like everybody kind of delivers, but the only one I feel like who really surpassed my expectations is Nicolas Hoult. I don't know if I would say he's better than Kevin Spacey. I think that he has an advantage in that he's playing the most comic book close version of Lex Luthor ever. Because I think most people don't realize, if they've never read the comics, is that Lex is that character you've seen in all the other movies, but you always see Lex Luthor as the criminal. You never see him as the billionaire who has a lot of political power and stuff like that. We're seeing the billionaire political power, Lex Luthor. Even by the end of this movie, I still question, I'm like, will he just continue to be that guy who appears on TV, on talk shows and stuff like that? That was so cool to see. And the other thing that I think really stands out with Nicholas Hoult is that he held back his performance for a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
He knew how to. He basically built a symphony out of his performance. I almost feel like now I'm overselling it, and people are going to watch the movie like, boy, you kind of overblew that. But like, it starts with I'm going to slowly build, and then I'm going to get more and more over the top, and I'm going to get more and more angry, and then you're going to by the end of this movie, that's his crescendo. This is I'm going to go all balls to the walls, and you're going to see the most evil Lex Luthor you've ever seen, and it's going to be glorious. And he
Yeah.
pulled that off brilliantly. And to think, I don't think you've seen this movie, but the movie About a Boy with him and Hugh Grant, did you ever see that?
No.
Nicholas Hoult, his first big movie was a movie called About a Boy, which came out 2002, where he played a nerdy kid. Like this was pre-puberty Nicholas Hoult, a
Hmm.
nerdy kid who Hugh Grant kind of takes under his wing to kind of just help him and stuff like that. Amazing movie.
Hmm.
And every time I see Nicholas Hoult since then, I'm like, this is the example of when puberty hits a person right, you know? Because he's developed into being like, this is the coolest guy. We kind of joked about, what is wrong in this new Superman movie when we went from Amy Adams literally couldn't stop gawking at Henry Cavill and putting her hands on him, even though she was a happily married woman, and her family was doing the same thing. And now David Corns was coming out saying, like, I can't even breathe when I'm around Nicholas Hoult. He's so beautiful. But we mentioned last time. I kind of want to give a confirmation now. I said that I thought that I remembered that when Nicholas Hoult was screen testing, that was one of the names leaked, where they said, "Oh, Nicholas Hoult screen testing," and people thought that was for Superman. And James Gunn kind of confirmed. He's like, "Yeah, we're meeting with Nicholas Hoult," but he didn't say what role. And I thought, well, that meant it was Lex Luthor. Nicholas Hoult has come out in like the last week and said, "No, I went in there to screen test for Superman. They offered me Lex Luthor." And I said, I'd really like to test for Superman. They went through the whole process, the same process David Corns went through. The whole process. He was in the costume. Like during those final days, they did screen tests with him in costume. We could have seen Nicholas Hoult as Superman. And talk about just the humbleness of an actor, where they said, we're going to go with a different guy, but we'd still like to talk to you about Lex Luthor. He says, all right, if the offer's still on the table, if I'm not playing Superman, let me show you what I could do with Lex. In Nicholas Holt's mind, this was his consolation prize. He doesn't play this like a consolation prize. I don't know if I would have loved him as Superman. I
Yeah.
do love him as Lex Luthor, though. I think he could have made a good Superman. I think he makes a great Lex Luthor.
Agreed. And also, I just want to mention as well, like the first like role I ever actually like got to see of him doing for him as an actor was actually Nosferatu. I got to see him do like
Oh
the
yeah,
remake there, which I thought it was brilliant. Like my other uncle, like not the one
Nazi.
related
What?
to not the one related to you, but
Oh, I thought you said Nazi.
no,
You got a
no,
Nazi uncle?
no, not the one related to not the one related to
Your
you.
uncle
As
from
more
the other
related to my
side of
mom.
the
Your uncle
family.
for the other. I have a complicated family tree, okay?
No, you have the same family tree as everybody else. Everybody's got a mother and
Yeah, but he's not
father,
related to you.
which is how it works on everybody's family.
It's just complicated, okay? But anyways, he loves horror movies, and he had me over for a movie night, and we actually watched the actual remake, not the actual like first Nosferatu movie, and then we watched the remake right afterwards.
Now I know which uncle you're talking about. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, that
Okay,
it's
yeah,
not terribly complicated, but yes, I thought you were literally referring to the way that like my kids will have, hey, here's your Uncle Ian, oh, and here's Auntie Jamie's brother. I'm like, that's not complicated. I know what you're talking about. Though, yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
but
another
yeah,
uncle.
yeah. So he's awesome. I love him. But yeah, he
Well,
loves horror movies. He wanted me to see Nosferatu just because he thinks it's one of the best movies in the world. And I am not a big horror movie fan, but I actually liked the remake of Nosferatu. I thought it was pretty
I'm
good.
I'm kind
Uh,
of with you. I'm indifferent on horror movies. The biggest problem for me is that, not to have too much of a sidebar here, but I'm like,
yeah,
they don't scare me. And to me, watching a horror movie, if it doesn't scare you, is like going to watch a comedy and you don't laugh. You're like, oh, that comedy was amazing. Did you laugh? Not once.
yeah.
So to me, I'm like, if I'm watching a horror movie, that horror movie is amazing. Oh, was it scary? I didn't think so. But that's the problem. But it was eerie. And uh, to continue to sell Nicholas Hoult, everything I've ever seen him in, he steals the movie. We're still going to get around to it. Fury Road. I think I mentioned that with Man of Steel last week. Fury Road. He is not the star of that movie. He is a supporting character. But I dare anybody to watch Mad Max Fury Road and not walk out saying Nicholas Hoult stole that movie.
Yeah. And yeah, there's also some other stuff that we can talk about. Crypto the Superdog, I think it was pretty cool, and the fact that he actually James Gunn actually did it where he's actually like the same breed as his own dog. I thought that was
Mhm.
pretty cool, and I thought that was a nice touch to where it's just like, yeah, we can be comic accurate, but we don't have to be comic accurate like to the point. But I actually liked it a lot, and also he was pretty funny throughout the movie. I thought they used him.
Um,
I thought the usage was actually pretty good. And then there was some other editing stuff that I want to point out that was actually pretty good. The end sequence I thought was cool because it was a bit of not the music. The music I thought was okay. I thought the final credits where the actors' names were coming out, just in the style of the opening credits for Superman, like the original
Mm.
Superman movie. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if you probably picked up on it, but I thought that was a neat touch at the end there. And then the
Uh,
score I thought was great. I wasn't expecting to have some no-name guys just come in and just do a random Superman score, but I thought they did a pretty good job. I think I actually know them from somewhere. I not
well,
like not like
you know
I
one.
don't know them, but I think I've heard some of their music before. But I just have
John
to.
so the two scores of this movie is John Murphy, who is James Gunn's regular composer. So he did the Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. And David Fleming, who has more so worked with other composers, so he hasn't gotten like his actual credit. I think the only big movie he scored was that Damsel movie for Netflix, the Dragon one, which was pretty lame. Um,
Mm,
I'm not as big of a fan of the score, and I think it's just because the bar's been set, so high.
yeah,
John Williams' score, the way they incorporate in this movie, the best parts, because after watching the movie, the first thing I do is I listen to the score. I listen to it all the way through,
yeah.
and when they're reworking John Williams' score, and his themes, I'm like, wow, that really works. Nothing else from the score stands out. In fact, most of it is like, this is so typical and mediocre, I could not distinguish it from any other movie I've seen.
Mm,
And the same can't be said. I'm not even just talking about John Williams. People are very critical of the score for Superman 2 because John Williams didn't do it, that another composer, Ken Thorne, did. And I'm talking about even just the original music that's not the theme John Williams composed. The score for Superman 2, amazing. Superman 3, really dumb movie, but the score is actually really solid. We talked about in the Quest for Peace. I'm like, I think Quest for Peace is an amazing score. Superman Returns, the way that took John Williams' themes and created new themes around it. John Ottman, so good. Hans Zimmer, what he did, amazing. This is the
yeah.
first time I've ever heard a Superman score. I'm like, outside of John Williams' theme, it's all right. I don't know if I'd go on my way to listen to it again. I love that directors can be loyal to their composers, but this is one where I'm like, I think he should have gotten somebody bigger. To me, a superhero movie needs to have iconic music start to finish and not just the theme.
Who would your ideal composer be for this movie if you wanted someone like big? Because I think Michael Giacchino would be out of the picture because I think that would have been my
Yeah,
first thought because
he's
but
done
he
too
does
many of
fit,
them.
but he's done too many. Yeah, and he's also doing Fantastic Four. But what would be your top like pick from the
I
ones
mean,
that haven't done
my
one
my
yet?
favorite movie composer is James Newton Howard, who technically has
Oh
done superhero
yes,
movies. He did the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds, which again, bad movie, amazing score. But he also co-wrote the scores for both Batman Begins and the Dark Knight. But I guess most well known for like M. Night Shyamalan movies like Signs and Sixth Sense and Lady in the Water, which is actually I think one of the best scores he's ever composed. Yeah, he would probably be my number one. Um, I think we're kind of done with Hans Zimmer and Danny Elfman. I think they've been done to
yeah.
death as far as scores and stuff like that go as well. But James Newton Howard just has a way of coming up with really melodic themes and um, weird movies compared to. But if you watch the movie Lady in the Water or The Last Airbender, which is a bad movie by the way, but you
Yeah,
watch the
I watched that one.
yeah, you watch those movies, he has a way of having like this incredibly triumphant music come up at the end that's just like, you could hate the movie and love the score. I think the only other one that comes to mind that I think would be really interesting would be Thomas Newman, who
Hmm.
I'm trying to think if he did a couple of the James Bond movies, more dramatic movies like Road to Perdition is one that he did. The Shawshank Redemption. What I'm really thinking of is Cinderella Man, the Russell Crowe movie we kind of referenced on Man of Steel, the boxing movie.
Yeah.
Again, just somebody who has I don't need a superhero theme to sound like a corny superhero theme. I need it to sound big and heroic. And when I think about like Cinderella Man, or I think about The Last Airbender, or Signs or Lady in the Water, they kind of have that big triumphant music. I want them to continue to use, John Williams themes, but come up with some new themes of your own and don't just have the typical action music. Dun, 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 dun. Like I've heard it a million times before.
And how would you think about the other? I think you were going to mention something about the editing or
You're
the
talking about the
whole like
closing
ending
credits?
closing credits. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. It's definitely different for Superman. It fits a comic book movie. It's a way to keep the audience engaged, and some of the Marvel movies have done this. I actually think the movie that did it best was Shazam. the first Shazam movie,
Yeah.
you cut to a song and then you have like these comic book like panels. This one was different. This one, it looked like the opening credits of a TV series now, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, I like that. It's a good way because a lot of people are crazy about the ending for this. I'm like, to me, the last scene, the last dramatic scene in this was like, I saw it coming a million miles away, you know? It wasn't anything surprising. So you leave people off on like a big moment. But again, as a purist, like I kind of just want to see a shot in space with the words coming towards the screen. Like I go for the Richard Donner effect, like dun 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 dun. Dun.
Well, I think they
But
kind of
still, it
did
was
that. I think they kind of did that with the
well
whole
with
words
the
just coming in
titles,
and.
the way the titles are playing this, and let's also quickly comment. We saw this in D-Box 3D.
Oh yes, yeah.
I don't feel like the D-Box added that much to this movie, but
No, it definitely did not. I was actually
the
disappointed.
the 3D though, this is probably the first time I've seen something in 3D in a couple of years where I'm like, whoa, if I'm going to recommend people see this movie, see it in 3D. 3D really works for this movie, and it's not cheap gimmicks. It's just it really gives it it gives you that extra dimension, almost like a third dimension.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. Did you want to mention the story about how you got these tickets? Because I thought it was pretty funny, at least.
Oh, no, I'll say that. I don't want to give. Basically, I'll just say we got these free tickets because there was a bit of an incident at a movie we saw a couple months ago, and I won't mention what it was because I don't want to disparage the name of a good business and a good theater who decided we're going to comp you guys tickets. But
No,
it's a
fair enough.
crazy story. Maybe one day, if people sign up if Patrick decides he wants to start a Patreon for this, then that could be the first perk. We'll tell you the story about the craziest movie theater experience ever. Let's just say there were police cars and stuff like that, and nobody knew until the movie was over when we started getting handed out free passes.
Which is awesome. So otherwise, I think I would have been a money wasted on D-Box because that was not a good experience
Yeah.
personally. But
And I don't know how it would be in IMAX because I mean I didn't see this in IMAX. But
yeah, I got to see it in IMAX on the one of the first showings for
yeah,
at Scotiabank Theater. I thought it was pretty good. Like I was like pretty in the middle, and actually, Scotiabank Theater is the one of the only theaters that has like the big like screenings now because Silver City used
proper
to
one.
have them,
Yeah.
and now they don't really anymore. And so you get the seat with like maybe like 400, 500 people, and the theater was actually pretty full, which made the experience a lot better because there was a lot
Hmm.
of cheering, there was a lot of clapping, a lot of Nicolas Hoult fangirls and all
Yeah.
that. But but and
Were
a
there
lot of people,
actually?
like,
Were there like people?
well,
Whoa!
there was a couple. Yeah, there was some people that were cheering for him, and there's also some cosplayers as well dressed up as Superman. Some of them better than others, but
I
I
I
will.
was surprised your auntie Jamie didn't give a woo when Nicholas Hoult came on screen. She's a
Well,
fan of
he wasn't
his.
shirtless. He needed to be shirtless, otherwise he wouldn't have
Well,
done
he's
anything.
shirtless in Fury Road, but if you see him in Fury Road, you'd probably be okay with him putting a shirt on.
Yeah.
He,
Okay.
he's
Fair
he's
enough.
basically Skeletor in that movie. He dropped down to maybe 120 pounds.
Well, so he's basically a twig, just like my brother.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to comment about this movie? Because I feel like that. I mean, there's some spoilery stuff. Like, there's some surprise cameos that I thought that was pretty cool. One in the middle, then one at the end, teasing probably a potential movie coming out next year. I won't mention that too much.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people know at this point. I mean, if you don't want to hear it, just turn this episode off now, delete it, and
Yeah,
never
yeah.
listen
Okay,
again.
fair
But,
enough. I mean,
well,
we get
well,
yeah,
Supergirl
Supergirl.
does have a tease. Yeah.
Which again, I love the actor, and I'm sold. I'm sold on the Supergirl movie. I am actually looking forward to it. I think her character was great, and I think from what I've heard from the story, just being like a more darker version of Superman, I thought it's gonna be pretty cool. And I mentioned to Uncle Tom before, like maybe this is where James Gunn's a bit more mature in this one. Maybe he's like leaning not toward not like fully towards R rated, but maybe somewhere around that camp, like maybe 18A, 14A, 15A,
Mhm.
like something around a camp where you could be a little bit more like bloody and golder, especially when you have Lobo coming into this movie
Yeah.
with that actor, I
Momoa.
forget his name.
Jason
But
Momoa.
Jason Momoa, which I think has been very animate from a lot of fans for a long time. I don't know, Colin, do you want to gloss over Supergirl and
Yeah.
Lobo and
Yeah, I
maybe
mean, I
yeah.
won't spoil everything about the cameo, but I mean, I sort of explained to you what the storyline, because the comic book storyline they're using for the Supergirl movie was the Woman of Tomorrow, which is, um, it's a bit of a shock if you read it and you're a fan of Supergirl, because like I'm a big fan of like all different versions of Supergirl.
Yeah.
It is really about somebody dealing with the grief of losing their world, and I think that's the one. A lot of people sort of just they don't even care to learn about Supergirl because they look at it as like a cheap knockoff. Like, what do I need Supergirl for? But like, there's a lot more complexity with Supergirl than you think because she comes to Earth, she leaves Krypton, she knows her planet, right?
Yeah.
Unlike Clark, and she comes to Earth thinking she's about to protect a baby, only to basically arrive and be like, he's older than I am. What am I even here for? She doesn't serve a purpose. And the comic storyline really got into that. A lot of space stuff. It's weird because it would be more suited to James Gunn's style than Superman would. But James Gunn's not directing the next one. So it's actually Craig Gillespie, who this guy did I, Tonya. Now that kind of suits it because I, Tonya, true sports movie, but also very much a satire. And he also did the Cruella movie, which I haven't seen.
Cruella is actually pretty good. I think I would recommend people to check it out.
Yeah, like I don't think the movie's going to be R-rated, although they could make the comic book version R-rated. I think they know their box office will be in PG movies, and there's going to be a place for R-rated. I think especially for Supergirl, it's an opportunity. I hope they tone it down enough that they can get some kids in the theater. Because where you're going to go after this, you have to have Supergirl eventually be heroic. She eventually has to be as good as Superman.
Yeah, of course.
I quickly, just before we go here, just commenting on the upcoming DCU movies. They do have directors assigned for all these, and it's funny because I didn't even bother to follow who's going to be directing all these things. And when I looked up the other day, I'm like, they have got some all-star directors for some of these upcoming movies. So first of all, the Clayface movie, directed by James Watkins, who is a horror director, but he did
Which
a
is
movie
what
called...
this movie is supposed to be, basically.
Yeah, and I still don't think you're ever going to be able to sell a Clayface movie. I think that there's too many people who have been turned off by Morbius and Kraven the Hunter and stuff like that. They won't even bother.
I'll be checking this out, at least.
He made the movie Speak No Evil last year with James McAvoy. If you remember the trailers about a family who goes on vacation and then
I saw those trailers a lot. Yeah. I was actually interested just because
that movie
only
is
because
so
of James
good.
McAvoy.
And it's written by Mike Flanagan, who is basically the king of like everything horror related. He's the guy who made the sequel to The Shining, the one with Ewan McGregor.
Okay.
He also does Doctor Sleep. That's what it was. He also does all of those Netflix TV shows like what is it? The House on Haunted Hill and all those things. Basically everything Mike Flanagan touches, people like worship. And then you have Andy Muschietti, who's actually the guy who did The Flash, who's doing Brave and the Bold, which is going to be really awesome. And James Mangold, who's the guy who made the best Wolverine movie, Logan, as well as a ton of other things. Sadly, he made that Bob Dylan biopic last year. But James Mangold, the guy who did Logan, is the guy doing Swamp Thing. I'm there for that one, too. Can I fix Charlie Brown with batteries? I can probably try.
It's a triangle screwdriver.
I will find a triangle screwdriver, but I want you to go upstairs right now, okay? I've got a Charlie Brown toy here that has to have batteries put in it. I'm glad he interrupted that. So yeah, we do have some very exciting movies coming up in this first slate here. And I think they're going to be pacing themselves. I'll change the batteries, okay? For this one too, a baby shark thing. Fine, I'll get to it.
Did you have any comments about the Lantern TV show? Because I think that actually looks pretty promising with Aaron Pierce as Hal Jordan and some other great actors there.
Kyle Chandler is what we're going to be getting. So, Aaron Pierre's a really good actor. He made that movie, Rebel Ridge, I think it was called last year.
Yeah, and then he also was in Mission Impossible 7 and 8 as that guy.
No, that would be a different guy, Pastor.
Are you sure?
Yes, that wasn't Aaron Pierre. They are of the same ethnicity, though, so I can see.
They look the same. Not because
they don't look the same.
Ethnicity. I'm pretty sure. I thought it was the same guy.
I'll tell you though, they would look the same, except Aaron Pierre is definitely much bulkier now, and he has very striking blue eyes. That's the big difference. But yes,
I thought he was okay. I am sorry for people. I'm not trying to be. I'm not. I promise you, I'm not racist. I just thought he was actually like in Mission Impossible because he literally looks like him.
Well, let's also say they kind of wasted what's his name, Greg Tarzan Davis in Mission Impossible. No, the one to be really excited about is that, I think, because Aaron Pierre is Jon Stewart. We already know we got Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, but it's the big one. It's Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan. If you don't know who Kyle Chandler is, I've got homework for you. Maybe the greatest living actor. This man he is a god of actors. Okay. The TV show Friday Night Lights. If you've never watched Friday Night Lights, watch it. You actually would know him because he was in 2 of the Godzilla movies. He was in King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong. He was the father, the guy who was brought back in Godzilla King of the Monsters, if you remember that.
I don't think I've actually watched King of the Monsters. I have watched Godzilla X Con though.
He had a smaller role in that. He was sort of running Monarch, and his daughter was the one sort of off on the mission. But yeah, like TV series especially. Friday Night Lights. He may have the greatest performance in television history on the TV show Friday Night Lights. Yeah, everything that Kyle Chandler's in, I go out of my way to watch. And having him as Hal Jordan, like that's perfect.
And then there's also some other stuff coming out. Like, again, we've talked about Swamp Thing, and there's also the Booster Gold series, which
Oh, I
hasn't really
love Booster
gotten a
Gold.
lot of updates, but I am so excited. Just because I know James Gunn, like I said, he works with obscure characters, and I'm actually really excited because of that. And some other stuff that I want to see, because obviously I grew up with the Justice League Unlimited series, and those were the big ones with the obscure characters. I want to see Captain Atom. I want to see The Question. The Question is probably on the top of my list of characters I want to see James Gunn tackle because he is so good. I want to see an actual Huntress. I want to see a Black Canary. What else do I want to see?
I mean, we had the Birds of Prey before, but yeah, they
but
really
that's not a real Black Canary. Okay, let's
well,
just
yeah,
say
they
that
made
right
the
there.
Black Canary and the Huntress side characters and what they should have been.
Yeah, but they're not
themselves.
the real characters. They're just names. Anyways, and I also want to see Plastic Man also tackled by James Gunn because I think that would be a pretty good fit.
Do you know Plastic Man, your grandfather, like my father, that was his favorite superhero. When I was a kid, when I first discovered Superman, we basically got a bunch of comic books that used to be his from our grandparents. And I was able to read old Superman comics from like the 50s and 60s, original Fantastic Four comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when he gave me the box, he said, "This guy right here, Plastic Man, my favorite." Now, Plastic Man was kind of a joke, but then they rebooted him a couple of years ago, and I'm like, whoa, they really knew how to reboot Plastic Man.
Is there any other obscure characters that you want to see James Gunn tackle? Because I think I've named some pretty big ones that I think James Gunn could probably do.
Yeah, I'm with you. Booster Gold, I think, is one that I've been excited about for a long time. You can't introduce him too quickly. I think that's a character that just by the fact this is a character from the future, you're going a little bit too extreme right away, and I feel like they should hold off a bit on that. I'm pretty sure that's the last TV series that's in development right now, like the end of their slate, which is a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm still crossing my fingers for the Blue Beetle because I know that James Gunn did say they're bringing Zolo Maranduela back.
Yeah, which I am really excited for because he was actually really good. I'm excited.
When I said I have like my big five, DC superheroes, it is Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and then it's Hawkman and the Blue Beetle. Like Blue Beetle and Hawkman are in my top. So bring in a Hawkman, give Hawkman a movie. They were developing Hawkman movies, but if you want to do an R-rated movie, Hawkman is the one to do it with. And not make it like one of these over-the-top R-rated movies. Just a dark movie, If Matt Reeves finishes the Batman Part 2, give him Hawkman, because you get into like mythology and stuff like that, like Egyptian mythology. There's stuff for space in there, and I mean, he's just literally called the Savage Hawkman. So that would be my number one. But the one I'm really holding out is that yes, they do get the Blue Beetle one off the ground. And yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to doing the Huntress and Black Canary properly. Whether you do it as Birds of Prey or whatever. I think especially Black Canary really should have something. And give Mr. Terrific a movie, his own movie. If this movie did anything, it sold people on. Mr. Terrific movie could open with $100 million.
Absolutely. And I don't know, maybe very quickly, did you have any thoughts about The Question? Because I don't know if you're familiar with him per se, but I think that would actually be a great fit for Mr. James Gunn here. Are you familiar with him?
Well, the name sounds familiar, but I'll have to kind of look up. Oh, that's the faceless guy. Yeah.
Faceless conspiracy theorist who is really, really good. He's a really awesome character. If you haven't seen Justice League Unlimited, he's perfect. He's probably one of my favorite characters in that series.
There are ties to other things DC related with The Question. So yeah, that would be something that you would build off of if you wanted to build off of Blue Beetle, if you wanted to build off of the Green Lanterns TV series. Drop a character like that in there. Even though I'm saying I'm not thrilled with the fact that this movie featured so many characters, the fact that people are really getting behind Mr. Terrific shows this is a good way to introduce some of these obscure characters. Because the problem Marvel has run into now is that they're out of characters people get excited about. And they tried with Disney Plus to get people excited about all these characters to their TV series, and it kind of just backfired because now people just view it as that's a TV thing. I don't need a TV thing on the big screen, You throw a little cameo in there, but like be cautious with it. At some point, please, even just for me, just give me a movie just about that character. Give me a Supergirl and it's just a Supergirl movie, you know?
I mean, if we're talking about the people not caring, let's maybe to mention Ironheart. Oh,
Yeah.
you stupid character, stupid movie. I can't believe they introduced that demon character in that series. That is
I haven't
unbelievable.
finished it yet.
You haven't finished it yet? Oh shoot,
No.
I don't think I spoiled anything for you,
I
but I or did
I
you
don't
you
listen
know
when you
what?
talk anyways.
Okay, do you know the big character that's in the end of the show?
Oh, I know a character, a villain who comes in last because they announced casting of who it was. So
Oh
I
yeah,
won't
right,
spoil it
right,
if that's
right.
the
So
same one you're
you're not
talking
too
about.
yeah. I think it might
Yeah.
be the same one, the one that everyone keeps thinking that is coming,
Yeah.
but never comes. I'm buying this movie. Colin, what are you gonna do?
I'll still buy it. It's going to be a little bit less enthusiastic buy. I'm very curious to see it again. Um, for me, the real judge is, do I want to see this movie again? Yes. And then the second question I always have is this a movie where I feel like my opinion will change? Not even necessarily is my opinion going to be better. I don't think this will ever be a 4-star movie for me. It's a solid 3.5, but it's something where I feel like there's certain things I might appreciate more in a second viewing and some things I might appreciate less. So it's a movie that has me curious to rewatch it. Which is more than I can say for a lot of blockbusters, especially last year. I think this has been a decent year for blockbusters so far. You know, How to Train Your Dragon, good movie. F1, great movie.
Oh yeah,
Um, uh,
absolutely.
did you see F1?
Yes, I have seen F1. It's actually it's
Amazing.
I
Way too long though. Cut 20 minutes out of that movie.
cut 20 minutes and maybe change a little bit about it because it was way too much Top Gun Maverick. But
Can I just quickly say that movie, Your Auntie Jamie, she did not want to see that. Every time the trailer came on, I said, "Okay, we're gonna go see this movie, right?" She goes, "You could see it yourself. I have zero interest." Finally, the
was
day
it
it
just because
opened,
of Brad Pitt?
no, she didn't. It's just she didn't have an interest in. She's like, I don't want to watch a racing movie. It doesn't look interesting. The day the movie came out, I'm like, okay, will you see F1 with me? She's like, I guess so, sure. She saw it a third of the way through the movie. She's like, eh. I asked her 2/3 of the way through the movie. What do you think? She goes, it's all right. It's not my thing. End of the movie, she literally turns to me and says, I've got tears in my eyes. I can't believe it. She literally was brought to tears by the movie. So,
Well, that's
yeah,
why the movie just builds and builds and builds their conflict and emotions over time, which
yeah.
I thought was pretty good.
That is your mini
Again,
F1 review.
very very similar to Top Gun Maverick because it's the same guy that directed it. But I do want to mention one quick thing before we ended this episode. The popcorn buckets. I thought this movie did really well with the popcorn buckets. We got
Yeah.
the whole. Obviously, they got the tin bucket, which is like the classic one. Then we got an awesome popcorn bucket, which is like a Daily Planet newspaper reel,
Yeah.
where you get like
The box.
a newspaper, the box with the newspaper, just being like this newspaper of the Daily Planet, just stories from there. And then I got the. I'm not gonna say the price because it's gonna be crazy. I got an amazing popcorn bucket with Superman shooting through a glass container to a popcorn little popper thing and heating it up and having popcorn come out. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was great. And I think even when we talked about it at the end of the movie, I think the popcorn bucket trend is going to just soar to new expectations. Because I think this is just becoming, ever since COVID, like, this is becoming a great trend.
It's really Dune Part 2 last year that started it with the sandworm bucket.
Oh, yes. And then we got, what's some other good ones?
Deadpool.
I mean, oh, yeah, Deadpool. I love that Deadpool.
Jurassic Park Rebirth had an amazing one. The footprint.
I heard you and Seth were talking about it. It's like, where can I fit this though? That's my thing. So I thought I got to see that one, and that was actually pretty cool. But yeah, I think this popcorn bucket thing is gonna go up in hills from here because it's just been going so well.
Yeah.
And then obviously we got the Fantastic Four popcorn bucket, the $80 Galactus pen, which I thought was brilliant. I thought that was cool.
I won't be dropping that much money.
I'm not buying that though. If it wasn't for this one, I wouldn't be buying that because that is way too big, and I know I would never fit it anywhere. Yeah, well, that was recorded right back in the beginning of June. So. Like I alluded to in the original in the beginning, we are doing something a little different. We're doing a little bit of a versus kind of thing. Marvel versus DC, the big hits coming into the summer, while I think Jurassic World is going to knock them both out of the park because everyone likes dinosaurs, apparently. I don't know why that has to allude to anything, but now we're heading for the conversation about Fantastic Four First Steps. And I actually did come out of watching this in theaters twice. I watched it on Thursday night, the beginning one, and then I also got a keychain from that. That was pretty cool. And then I also
Ooh.
came out of watching it on Friday as well. So I watched it Friday. It was pretty fun because I just loved it so much that I needed to see it a second time. And I guess I allude to what I feel about the movie. It's great. Like I thought it was. I'm gonna allude to not saying the word because I know there's been lots of memes about the 2015 movie.
Fantastic.
No, the 2015 movie of
Oh.
say that again. It's been going around all like internet, and I love it. But here we go. So I love this movie. I think it's brilliant. There's a lot of things that I think there's a couple days that I think hold it back a little bit, just a tiny little bit, not big bit, but there's a lot of good stuff. And I think like having this being like a successor and a not successor, a big versus being like, okay, how is this movie compared? How is Superman compared to this one? We are just like it's a totally different movie, which makes it perfect. But and there's also little action as well, which is fantastic. I'm sorry, I alluded to that.
Fantastic.
But I mean, like again, I love this movie. I can't wait to talk about it and give a little bit more thoughts on it. But Colin, you you weren't really loving it as much as a lot of people were. Again,
No.
you are being very. This is what you wanted: a single solo adventure, no cameos, no nothing, just play Fantastic Four with the other one, and it's you're why are you so
Okay.
contradictory?
So I'm going to start by saying the thing that I love most about this movie is that it is its own standalone movie. It's the first time in so long that we've gotten a superhero movie that just exists on its own. It doesn't feel like it needs to share the universe. It doesn't need to set up a million other things. I mean, one of my biggest problems with Superman was that it was too worried about setting up all these other things. It's funny that, we talk about Superman and how the engineer is basically only there to set up the authority. And now apparently the authority movie's been canceled. So it's like, you could have just cut the engineer. But those are the things that help back Superman. What works for this is that they're just letting this be a Fantastic Four movie. If you think about it, even Captain Marvel, which was a period film, took place in the 90s, it was still too worried about what was going on with all the other Marvel stuff and having to include characters like Nick Fury and stuff like that. Captain America, the First Avenger was probably the last time that there was a movie that just let it be its own thing. I mean, even if you go back to the early Phase 1 days, Iron Man 2, we have to set up Black Widow in this movie, So I miss those old movies. And DC did it with Blue Beetle, and I think that was one of the things that I really loved about Blue Beetle is it was a throwback to old superhero movies where it was just its own movie.
And Shazam as well, technically. The first Shazam movie was also...
Shazam worked in, hey, we exist in this universe, but they did it as almost like a joke and then let it be its own movie, yeah. But especially for Marvel, like it's been so long since they've had a movie like this, and that really does work for this. It does exist in a different universe. I mean, that's something that it's not really spoiling that much, and I think that that's pretty much widely known now.
Yeah.
I think that my opinions walking out of this movie had a lot to do with my expectations going in. And I didn't have super high expectations this would be the greatest movie ever. But my expectations were based on the story. I knew we were getting Galactus. I knew we were getting a proper, like comic accurate version of Galactus. I knew they were doing the Galactus storyline with the Silver Surfer, a Silver Surfer and stuff like that. And I would say next to the death of Superman, my favorite comic book storyline of all time is the original coming of Galactus, which I think was like 1964 or 1965, which was the Herald, the Silver Surfer, Galactus, everything. And I'm not saying I'm one of these people, it's like, it wasn't exactly like the comics, but I was hoping for a little bit more of that comic storyline just because it is so epic and so made for a movie. I kind of wanted to see the Watcher in there. We didn't see the Watcher, I kind of wanted to see Alicia Masters, if you know who that character is. Well, I think most people who know the comics would know because she still exists in the comics. She's the Thing's wife, and she had a major role in the comics. So walking out of the movie, my first complaint was that I know that this would have been even better if they followed the storyline of comics. And your auntie, she really did love this movie. And she's like, I didn't think there were any problems at all. And then I basically described her the storyline of the coming of Galactus. And she's like, wow, that would have been pretty epic, Having said that, you have time to reflect on it. And I realized the coming Galactus storyline does not leave a lot for the Fantastic Four to do. The Human Torch is really the only one who gets anything to do in what would have been the last act of this, and he's off Earth in the comic book storyline. So much of it is based on the Silver Surfer, and my disappointment of not having Alicia Masters in there is that in the comics, Alicia Masters, who's basically the Thing's girlfriend, she is the person who turned the Silver Surfer. This movie is doing like an alternate take. This is like when you get comics and they're like, we're going to reboot the comic and tell the story again. We're going to do it differently. And that's fine, but I was just hoping it would be a little bit closer to the comics. Now, I also understand if they had followed the comics exactly as it is, you wouldn't have been able to profile a lot of the Fantastic Four as much. Them not including Alicia Masters, I mean, hey, we get a lame school teacher who has 2 scenes, and you could tell that there was a lot of stuff that was cut out of the Thing storyline with that school teacher in this movie. Maybe they're saving Alicia Masters for, when they eventually, blend the franchises in with the rest of the MCU. But I was hoping that. My other complaint with this just came down to the cast. The cast just weren't excited.
Bro, come on!
They were good, but if you look at the storyline for the 2005 and 2007 Fantastic Four and the Rise of the Silver Surfer, yeah, those storylines aren't necessarily brilliant, but that cast is having a ball. And I had such a hard time watching this cast and not thinking if you had Chris Evans, Michael Chiklis, Ewan Grufford, even Jessica Alba in this movie with a better script and a better story, that they would have brought these characters to life more. My biggest complaint, I think, would be with Pedro Pascal, and he gives an okay performance, but and this is where I feel a bit vindicated because I have seen a lot of reviews, and most of the reviews seem to be saying Pedro Pascal maybe not as good as he could have been. And this is a guy who's now become a meme himself because he literally says yes to every movie. And it's funny because as the movie was going on,
he's the better Chris Pratt.
Well, exactly. He does usually deliver, but in this movie, it's like I turn to your auntie and I'm like, everybody basically jokes that Pedro Pascal says yes to everything now, and you can tell it was like this was the movie where he's just getting a bit tired, And I have seen a lot of other reviews that have said the same thing. And it's funny because your aunt, she said, if I were to rank all the people, she's like, I thought he was good this movie, but if I were to rank everybody, he would be last out of the 4. And I think that seems to be the general consensus, is that if you're taking these performances of these characters, Mr. Fantastic is the least interesting one. And I feel like as a huge fan of Mr. Fantastic, especially, I wanted a little bit more out of him. Now, those complaints aside, I'm going to say this. So this is where there's light at the end of the tunnel. There are movies where I'm like, I've seen it, I'm done. When I saw Superman, I'm like, I kind of want to see it again because I want to see how I digest it, knowing some of the things that I don't like are going to be there. And I saw it a second time, and my opinion was pretty much the same. This movie, I walked out of it, and for 24 hours, I thought to myself, I'd be okay just waiting until it was on Disney Plus. I don't think I need to revisit this. Then I listened to the soundtrack on its own, Michael Giacchino's soundtrack, which during the movie,
fantastic composer. I love him.
Fantastic. During the movie, I'm like, this is pretty good. But then I listened to the soundtrack on its own, and I'm like, man, this soundtrack is just so incredible. It might be. I don't like when blockbusters just get nominated for Academy Awards, but I'm like, if a blockbuster is going to get nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Score, it should be Michael Giacchino's soundtrack.
Absolutely.
And when I started listening to the soundtrack, I started watching these sequences. The let's just call it the hyperspace contraction scene. That sequence, the Silver Surfers suite, things like that, where I'm like, if I went into this just with a different mindset, I think that I could be swayed. So this is a movie where I'm like, I walked out being like, it's okay. But I feel like if I were to revisit this, my opinion could jump quite a bit. Whereas I don't think it was ever going to with Superman.
And I think I had the lucky take of being like, this is fantastic. I got to see everything off the bat.
Fantastic! Just once you got actually say it like that.
Fantastic. But I agree with you that Pedro Pascal is probably the 4th best one out of the bunch.
Yeah.
That being said,
not bad, just the weakest.
I still think they're really good. Like Pedro Pascal puts in a good performance, even though he might look a little tired. I thought he was fantastic. Fantastic.
No, there you go.
I thought he was great. He's Pedro Pascal. Like he's the better Chris Pratt. Because Chris Pratt has been saying yes to everything, and he's like, okay. Like I love him in Guardians, but everything else he just phones in a performance. While Pedro Pascal, he actually performs. Like we got The Last of Us, we got The Mandalorian. We got this. What else has he gotten? I think he got that Chris Evans and Dakota Joshua movie that came out.
Materialist, yeah.
Yeah. I think there was another one that came out even. Like, this is the Pedro Pascal universe of him just acting in every single role.
The PCU.
I would rather that more than the Chris Pratt universe. But either way, I believe that he still phones in a good performance as Reed Richards, and probably one of the more mild ones. Like, we don't get a lot of creativity with his powers, mostly because the visual effects, as we probably heard, it's all been used for Galactus and Shia LaBeouf, which we'll talk about them in a minute. But I thought he was still great with what he worked with. Ben Grimm was probably the one that I was a little bit disappointed in personally, just because we didn't.
He got gypped in the story. You could tell they cut a lot of stuff.
Well, they cut a lot of stuff. I'm going to be talking about that actually in a moment here. But I thought that he was probably the worst. Actually, no, I'm going to change my ranking here. So I think Pedro Pascal is probably the third for amongst the four. I think Ben Grimm is the worst. Not saying that even Boss, whatever his last name is a bad actor. I thought he did a great performance as the Thing. There's just nothing for him to do. Like, he was just literally there just to be like a mannequin kind of thing. And that's
Can I just interject for a second?
Sorry?
Can I just interject for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
This kind of goes along with what my complaint is. I'm like, the one thing that I think that the Tim Story ones, the 2005, 2007 ones did better was they really captured the bickering dynamic of this. And if anything, I feel like this version of the cast was just too friendly with each other. And especially when it comes to the Thing, he is the punching bag, especially the relationship between him and Johnny. And we get a little bit of banter, but it's almost too nice between them. I wanted him to get a little angry. And what Michael Chiklis did in the 2005 and 2007 versions is that he brought that anger to it. And there was a lot of depth to that performance where there isn't in the script. And they were just too friendly with each other. And it's almost like MCU has gotten so much criticism lately for being over-reliant on comedy that the last two movies they've had have pulled back so far where you're like, you don't need to make it like joke after joke after joke, but you need it to be lighthearted. And this movie just wasn't necessarily lighthearted enough for the Fantastic Four, which are the most lighthearted, and especially the banter and the bickering is so key to those characters.
And I think we get a little bit of banter, not between like Ben Grimm and everyone else, but I think most of that banter will come from Vanessa Kirby and Pedro Pascal, who are great with chemistry, by the way. I will interject and say, like, I think this is honestly personally, I think it's a good take, just because they're a bit of a celebrity status. They're like looking around every quarter, like, okay, if they look at us wrong, we're gonna get like demoted, or we're gonna get like our paychecks cut. And then it's like we get to actually do like that little thing in the show that they keep referencing, and obviously with the post-credit scene at the end. But I think that they did. I think with the Thing, I think they definitely would have done a little bit more. And I think they interject a little bit about his story, just a little bit, with the whole like, I look like this and no one will like me like this. But I thought it was a good performance from. Again, I love Eamon Boss. I think he did a great job with the performance, and I think he was great. The two standouts out of the Fantastic Four, I think we both can agree on. It's been Johnny Storm and Vanessa Kirby. I think Joseph Quinn, personally, when we saw him announced as the Human Torch, I think we all went kind of like, huh? Like, I have never seen this guy in anything. Like, I thought he was just a nobody that they pulled right straight out of their keisters, and just being like, we're just gonna throw this hot playboy in there and just have that as the personality for the Human Torch. It was that, but it was more. Like, I thought that Joseph Quinn put in like more than what we were expecting. Again, the character of the Human Torch, like I've alluded to with the Thing, which is a little bit different. I think with the tone that they've done with the Human Torch is it's terrific. Like, I think that the fact that he is still I try to allude from saying the word. I think that the way that they did his character and the way that they brought his like little story arc together, I thought was great. And I thought his like little thing with the Silver Surfer just being like, yeah, he still has that playboy persona where he's like, you focus on driving the car, don't tell me how to shoot sexy aliens. I thought was great. And he still has that persona. But I think that what he's done in this movie, I think what he's done is an iteration of Human Torch has probably been really good. And I think it's probably a lot better than what Chris Evans put in. No offense to Chris Evans. No. I just think that this is a little bit better just because of what he brought to the table. Like, now, on the other hand, we go to the other half of the Storms. Vanessa Kirby, I knew that this was going to be a treat because I didn't. I obviously knew who she was. I think everyone knew who she was because we got to see Mission Impossible's 5
Mission
and
Impossible,
6
yeah.
and 7, where she got the phone in her performance as the White Widow, which was a little bit of a less role than in most of the Mission Impossible films, but I thought she did great. And then when we got the announcement that she was going to play Sue Storm, I'm like, I could see something here. Like, I could see, like, that villain, same energy as the villain be turned to a hero. And I thought it was executed perfectly. And especially her chemistry with Pedro Pascal. Like, say what you want about Pedro Pascal, like, being tired or phoning a performance. Their chemistry was fantastic. I thought they were... Crap. I thought they were great together. And that's what the chemistry between Sue and Reed is supposed to be. I think personally, for what we've missed in the last couple movies, has been that chemistry. Say what you will about the old Fantastic Four movies. I thought the whole Jessica Alba and whoever the original Reed Richards was, yeah, I thought their chemistry was garbage. I did not like them at all. But this one, I thought was great. I thought they played off each other really well, and especially in the final moments where we actually get to see Sue Storm being the most powerful member of the Fantastic Four, just pushing Galactus into whatever world they're bringing in. Maybe they're alluded to the negative zone. But I thought that was great, and I thought that was a great moment from her. And the fact that she got to showcase that was perfect. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts about Joseph Quinn and Vanessa Kirby?
First, I'm just going to throw a little bit of a defense in for Jessica Alba and Ewan Gruffin. Jessica Alba is not a great actress. In fact, I'll just say I have a soft spot for Jessica Alba. I appreciate her. I appreciate her inadequacies as an actress because what she does is she brings a star power without being able to act. And it's so funny when we watch any of her movies. I'll sometimes be laughing at her line delivery. I'll be like, it's so bad. I'm like, it's so bad, but she's such a good actress, you know, because like it's like a joking thing. But what she does have is she has that natural relatability with whoever she's working off of. So I think if you take aside the script and the fact that they weren't really able to do a lot, it's a completely different, relationship they have in this movie. This is a married couple versus basically a couple who's broken up and getting back together. And the fact that those movies were just dumb popcorn fun, Ewan Gruffin and Jessica Alba, they felt playful together. And I'm not saying that, that would have suited this movie because this is a couple who is having a child and they're stressed and stuff like that. And it worked for this movie. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I want to revisit this because, it wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. I'll also say this take on the Fantastic Four, we only really agree. Everybody kind of knows, okay, it starts with the pregnancy and all that. We're not going to get into what you eventually get to see with the child. I mean, people who follow the comics know they have 2 children. There's Franklin and there's Valeria. But I held off on reading the parents and children version of the Fantastic Four for years because it wasn't something I wanted. I wanted that classic Fantastic Four where it was just the 4 people and they're always arguing because they're family and this is the way they are. It's funny because we have our twins in the same program together. And we had a meeting there today. And like, it's so funny to watch them together because they'll torment each other, but they'll never do it to another kid. We're literally in a meeting and we watched Casey rip the hat off of Remy's head and throw it across the room. And they're like, he would never do that to another kid, but it's so hilarious to watch them together. They're kind of joking. Oh, it's like, when these teachers were growing up, they're like in a car, it's like, you stay on your side of the seat. You don't come to my side. That's what the original movies were about. I wanted it to be that forever. And when I finally got around to reading them as a family and parenting children, I'm like, my goodness, this is such a good take on it because the comics really started to be about how do you juggle family and stuff like that. I think it was maybe about 20 years ago when they really started that. And you had to deal with Reed is, supposed to be a father to his kids, but he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. We get the tiniest bit of that. That's where I feel a little bit let down with Reed because I feel like the storyline they had for Johnny in this, with him deciphering a language and stuff like that, like his B plot, that should have been Reed's plot. That would have elevated Reed. I don't think Johnny needed it. Johnny with the Silver Surfer, that was a plot line already. And it feels a little bit frustrating that like Ben Grimm is given almost nothing and Johnny's given 2 separate plot lines. Now, Joseph Quinn does well, but again, you have to keep in mind, this is a mature version of the character. We're seeing a more mature version. Yeah. And my personal preference is I like the Johnny Storm that, there's literally a comic series where the group has to break up after a while, right? Yeah. And they're split up and Johnny's off on his own And he's like, we're not allowed to be superheroes anymore, so I'm going to do it in disguise. And he literally is like, I'm going to dye my hair every day. I'm going to grow a black handlebar mustache. I'm going incognito as like Johnny, Nightweather or something like that, And he's fumbling things. I'm like, I want a little bit more of the immature Johnny, which is what Chris Evans did so well. But when you keep in mind this is a different take on it, it's fine. I still think you should have given that plot line to Reed. Vanessa Kirby has one scene in this movie. I'm not going to spoil everything, but it basically comes down to what are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice your family? Are you willing to sacrifice the world? And there's one line of dialogue she gives where even though I was kind of at that time being like, the movie's okay, I'm like, oh, that is good. That is really good. And that's going to be a quotable line from this movie.
Was that the whole speech thing? Or was that during
the speech she gives before everybody? Yeah.
That one was, I love that scene.
The world for. Yeah, amazing.
Yes, and that also emphasizes the whole theme of the movie about family. It's like, it's not only the four that are family together, it's the whole world. And I think that, I will say the line right now, I will not sacrifice my child for this world, but I will not sacrifice the world for this child, which is a great line, and I thought that was again, Vanessa Kirby does Vanessa Kirby does a great job as an Invisible Woman. I think that was a great line out of her.
I want to applaud Vanessa Kirby's acting style because she's so under the radar good, and I know she's been nominated for an Oscar. I don't even know if I saw the movie she was nominated for, but if anybody really wants to see how good of an actress she is, watch Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, because the end of that movie, there's a scene where Haley Atwell's character is basically wearing a Vanessa Kirby mask. And the only difference is they give her the brown contacts because Vanessa Kirby's eyes are blue and Haley Atwell's are brown.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that she's supposed to be playing it. And I watched that movie and I thought to myself, I'm like, Haley Atwell is so good in this scene. And it's so funny because I heard another show that reviewed it. And they said the same thing. I'm watching the scene. I'm just thinking, man, Haley Atwell's good. And then I'm hearing an interview with people who made Mission Impossible, and they're like, oh, they're editing it, and they're talking themselves like, Haley Atwell's just amazing to see. Like, you mean Vanessa Kirby? Like, she did so good at playing another person playing her that you literally lose track of the fact. I know that's Vanessa Kirby, but it can't be because I feel like watching Haley Atwell. She does kind of make this movie out of those Fantastic Four. I don't know if you want to talk about the Silver Surfer at all.
I mean, I want to talk about Galactus and Silver Surfer because I think, the fart cloud was a big disappointment for a lot of people down in 2007.
I'm not going to give a defense for the fart cloud, as you say, but it's funny because somebody else said to me recently, they're like, I didn't have that much of a problem with it because what else are you going to do? And when it's 2007, it was a very different age for comic book movies. They couldn't get away with making things comic book accurate. Everything was still leaning towards the X-Men and Spider-Man movies where you have to put the comic books in the real world. And there really was in 2007, I'm not even talking about effects. I'm just talking about what an audience would accept. An audience probably wouldn't have accepted this take on Galactus then. But I'm so happy we get it now because this is what you really want to see.
And also, I do want to mention something real quick about the actors, because I think Nicolas Hoult and the actor for Galactus did a little bit of bantering between each other. I think there was an interview where they interviewed the Galactus actor. What was his name again? I forget his name.
Ralph Ineson?
Ralph Ineson, yeah. And then he was like, I think there was a group, I think he was messaging Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor was just saying, like, haha, my Superman movie, beat that. And he's like, hold my beer. And he's like, actually, I will hold your beer because you're a guy that can devour planets, and I'm just a regular guy with anger issues. I thought that was the best thing that came out of Nicolas Hoult and Ralph out of that there. And again, I love Galactus in this movie. I think the effects on him are beautiful. I think that this is probably the best that we're gonna get, even though the face looks a little bit off. I love the fact that I think that he was a little underpowered, but I think there's a reason for that, but I think that he was fantastic. I think he was great in this movie. I thought that his usage, even though it was so little, I thought his usage was perfect, and I think that was great. And then obviously, a lot of the people's complaints that were going into this movie years back was the Silver Surfer, Shia LaBeouf. Now, I'm going to address this right now. Two things. One, I was never mad about the Silver Surfer being a woman. One, the multiverse. It's the freaking multiverse. Have your guy Silver Surfer in 616. I don't care. Two, it's literally in the comics a storyline where the guy is the husband of Shia LaBeouf, and she is the one that gave up being the Silver Surfer instead of him. this an actual storyline. I thought with what they did here was beautiful. I thought it was great. Again, I love the actress for Shia LaBeouf. I forget her name again because
Julia Garner.
Yeah, Julia Garner. There we go. Julia Garner was great in this movie, and I thought, again, a little bit less than what I would have wanted, but I thought the whole storyline and the whole wrap around with everything alluded to a little bit of the 2007 Fantastic Four Silver Surfer. Again, we're not going to reveal much, but I love what they did with her character, and again, her interaction with Johnny, I thought fit perfectly to what this movie was. Again, and I think one more thing that I think we can even mention was how mature this movie was, because I think you were alluding to before that this movie's more mature, this movie is more darker, it's more like end of the world schemes, and I thought it fit perfectly for what Marvel was doing. Again, it's an end of the world scenario. If you set this in the 616 universe, where you have to face the fact that Doctor Doom's coming and that the whole world's going to end, and you do a story like that in the 616 universe, it's not going to feel that tension. The whole hype, the whole lead up to this movie is that, wait, how are they going to go to the 616 universe? Is this world going to be destroyed? There was theories that were building off old stories and old fairy tales from the old 1800s where utopia societies end up dying because they're so perfect, which is what was lining up for this movie, because this is a 1960s futuristic utopia, which is pretty much perfect on the surface, but in the interior, it's not, which is what I was leaning towards, like, oh, the Fantastic Four is going to lose in this scenario. Like, they're not going to beat Galactus, but they end up doing it, and I'm still happy about that. I love the tension. I love the dark tones that they brought with this movie because it clashes with Superman, which is great and a great comparison to which movie is better. But I am still, like, I'm yearning for that, like, from Marvel. Maybe for Doomsday, do the same thing. Make it a bit dark. Make it the tone a bit more mature. Because this is Doomsday that we're talking about. Robert Downey Jr. is coming, and we gotta prepare for it. So I think this was great. And obviously, we can't really talk about the post-credit scene, but I was jumping out of my seat. I was screaming. My whole theater, that was like, literally everybody was filled in their seats, were jumping, screaming. Maybe one person threw a popcorn bucket at the screen. I thought was perfect, and I thought the way that they did that post-credit scene was awesome. I don't know, did you want to talk about the maturity of this movie and maybe alluded to that post-credit scene there?
I'll talk about the post-credit scene first because our theater had kind of the opposite effect.
Wait, when did you go see this movie?
I saw it on Friday night, so it was technically opening night still, and it was packed, you know? I think most people knew what we're going to see in the post-credit scene, and I think what we eventually do see, people were expecting more in my theater, because we basically had, it came, and then it ended, and you just hear this groan, like, oh, like, that's it, you know? So, yeah.
I mean, Doomsday's coming. It's coming in like a year. So it's like, you can't just bring the whole house down right away. You gotta build it up, and that's what they're doing right now. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, but when you think about the post-credit scene we had from Thunderbolts, which led into the Fantastic Four, that was something to really get people excited because it was also not what you're expecting. And this was basically exactly what you're expecting, but less of it, because you see no face and anything like that. You know?
Well, I mean, they know who it is. We know it's Robert Downey Jr. Like,
yeah, but
there's no doubt about it.
When people know they're going to get the scene, you got to deliver something more. So I felt like the post-credit scene was like, wow, exactly what I expected, but a little less. For the other stuff, the tone of this movie, what works for it is that it is that 60s feel, but they don't make it too goofy, you know? This isn't Ant-Man,
again, like, it's not supposed to be goofy. This is a utopia that's about to die, and they have a storyline here where the people don't trust the Four because, plot twist here, Franklin is supposed to be this sentient being that's supposed to overtake Galactus, and they're supposed to exchange him for the safety of their world. The whole world erupts. There's this cult of Galactus lovers that are going to go climb Mount Everest because the Fantastic Four betrayed them. How would you feel if that would happen? Would you want to have a goofy tone?
Take a step back. I'm not attacking you.
No, I know you're not attacking me. I'm just attacking your point. Would you want to have...
I didn't make a point yet.
Yeah, you just did. You just did. You want more 60s humor. Would you want to have more 60s
humor? No. I never said that.
Have more 60s humor.
I never said that. I said they had the 60s humor, but they didn't go too over the top with it. You could have. Now, I feel like Fantastic Four is something where you could have made it a little bit campier. This movie avoids going campy because
the end of the
this
world.
That's my point. You wanted to let me finish my point there, Patrick. If you're doing an end of the world movie, you have to have a more serious tone. And we go back to Mission Impossible. That was sort of what we were talking about. One of the things that worked so well in The Final Reckoning is that they really sold this is the end of the world. And they showed you the world's going to end. And there's no way you could have pulled off the lightheartedness of something like Rogue Nation or Ghost Protocol if you were doing that in Final Reckoning. Now, I'm crossing my fingers that at some point we still get another 60s-based Fantastic Four movie. I know that we're going to be having to have Avengers coming soon, but they can always go back to their world. You know, I want more of the 60s world where they can embrace it more. We get some fun stuff in here. I mean, there are a lot of great Easter eggs. The Mole Man especially. I don't think anybody expects to see the Mole Man in the movie. The Mole Man's in this movie, and that's not a spoiler because I think it's been revealed on like IMDb and everything. Yeah. There are a lot of other little cameos from different minor Fantastic Four characters and stuff like that over the years. And then them being the celebrities. And I think that's the thing that I was explaining to your auntie, that the thing that really makes Fantastic Four so unique for me is that they were never secret identities. They always were famous, but they're not the type of people who should be famous. They are nerds, you know, with the exception of the Human Torch. The Human Torch has been an idiot, but you know what? They're all nerds, and it's not who you expect to be saving the world, but they're forced to be celebrities because they basically were revealed the second they got their powers. The way that they did the montage, the newsreel montage of how they got their powers, fantastic, you know. The tone of the 60s works. I just want to see more of that. I want to be able to see them do something like that where you don't have that weight hanging over you at the end of the world. I'm going to give a brief criticism to when we finally see the big climax with Galactus, and that's that they empty the city. This is, again, Marvel has been so scared off from criticisms they've had in the past, and we kind of addressed that when we covered Man of Steel, about there was that big criticism between the Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Man of Steel, where you're just destroying cities. Or I think not the first Avengers movie, Man of Steel, you're just destroying cities. So then they're always trying to figure out clever ways. Let's just say it's an abandoned city, like in Justice League, right? Or Age of Ultron. It's just a small town and it's floating, you know? Sometimes it calls for a city being destroyed. And what made it work so good in the comics, and this is one of those things where I'm like, I miss this one part of the comic. You don't have to follow the comic storyline, but the coming of Galactus is about the fact that the world is in panic. It's literally like, what is happening? People are running the streets. I wanted to see some people running the streets screaming. It lowered the tension of the climax by only having 5 people present there, you know? Now, for the villain characters, Galactus, Ralph Ineson, I didn't realize he was in this movie until like a week before it came out. I didn't realize he was playing Galactus. And I kind of know him from going about 20 years back. He did the British version of The Office. I know a lot of people are crazy about the American version of The Office. I've watched the American version of The Office. To me, it doesn't hold a candle to the British version, but I'm also just a nut for British comedy, you know? The British version of The Office is so good, and he played the most unlikable character on that show. So when I saw he was playing it, all I could think about was his voice. I know he's done other stuff. He's one of these actors that I waited for 20 years for him to start getting noticed, and now he's finally getting noticed. He has that voice that if you ever watch the animated series from the 60s, it was that same type of like deep, haunting voice, like, you know, like a growling voice without being like sadistic. So as soon as I realized it was him doing it, I'm like, oh, that's going to be brilliant. Julia Garner, similar. I've been a huge fan of hers for probably over 10 years now, and she's only starting to break through now. She started on a TV show called The Americans, which is a great spy show that's based in, it's got Kerry Russell in it, and Matthew Rhys. And it's about a family. The parents are Russian spies who basically have been embedded in America, and they've had children, and they're still Russian spies, but their children are Americans and don't realize they are, you know? So they're working covert agents. And Julia Garner was in a season of that, and she just blew me away. And every time she pops up and stuff, I'm like, that's that girl from The Americans. And now over the last year or so, she did the Wolfman movie, which is a terrible movie, but she was really good in it. And then she also did that movie that was like a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. Again, not a great movie, but she was amazing in it. I didn't realize this was her until after I saw the movie. I'm like, who played the Silver Surfer? I look, oh, it's Julia Garner. So they both delivered, and I'm with you. This is an alternate take on the Silver Surfer. It's been done before, and by the time the Silver Surfer is revealed in this movie, it's already very clear to the audience. This is an alternate world. It's an alternate take. It's an alternate telling of the story. So it doesn't really bother you, I think, by the time you get there. Also, the one thing I think most people will agree on, even if they're not fans of the 2005 and 2007 version, is that the Silver Surfer was done really well in The Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
You had Doug Jones doing the performance capture. You had Lawrence Fishburne doing the voice, and he was what made that movie work. So if you can't top it, do something different, and that's exactly what they did. So yeah, props to both of them. My complaint about Galactus is that the lighting in this movie did not allow you to really see the costume. I was telling your Jamie, she's like, what do you think about the look of Galactus? I'm like, it's amazing, but like, I wish that there was a little more purple in it, And then when you see behind the scenes photos, you realize it was a purple costume, but somehow that got all lost in the cinematography. So I would love to see, maybe Galactus with a little bit more of that purple in there. For whatever reason, they decided to tone down this movie. I don't know, because when you see the set photos, it is full on purple. But yeah, Galactus is really what makes this movie. And let's also say, you get more of Galactus in this than you thought you were going to get. I thought Galactus would have a brief appearance in the middle, show up at the end. No, you get a very long scene with Galactus in the middle, a very long sequence after that. It's all about when he's going to show up. And then when Galactus does show up, it's staged like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters. It's literally him rampaging through the streets and knocking over buildings. It's like a kaiju Galactus. So that is what I think sold me on the movie. And that's what I walked out happy with more than anything.
I don't know if there's any much that we could talk about with concerning this movie, because there's minor spoilers, there's minor story stuff that we could get into, but I think we're running out of time. I think my uncle is in a cabin with his kids and a wife, and he wants to enjoy very much. So we will let you go, unless you want to add if you're going to buy or rent this movie or.
Yeah, no, right now, I'm going to say this. Right now, this is a high rent for me, but caveat on that.
A buy.
I feel like this is something, when I watch it again, knowing what I'm going to get, unlike Superman, it's going to bump it up a little bit. Now, if I'm comparing this to Superman, I'm saying right now, having seen Superman twice, I still prefer Superman over this, because I think the opening and the closing of Superman is done so well. It's just the middle where it gets bogged down. I think it's a little bit more consistent throughout. I don't know whether this will ultimately top Superman 3. Right now, Superman is easily topping this, but I'm almost more curious to watch this a second time than I would be to watch Superman a third time.
Well, I will say, to close our conversation off, I did rank this on Letterboxd 5 stars because I love this movie 100%, and it is on my top 5 MCU movies, of all time. Which, if that's telling you something, that's telling you that this is good stuff. I won't reveal where it is right now. You can look at it at your own time. I have my Letterboxd. You could go find it. It
was better than Thunderbolts. I think we'll both agree on that, right?
Yes, I 100%. Here's what I confirm. This is what I'm gonna say to brush off the opinion. I love Thunderbolts. I still love Thunderbolts. I just don't love it as a 5-star movie. The Thunderbolts was a good movie. It was good. It was fine. It worked what it worked for. And for me as well, having the previous Marvel slot that we got in the last little bit got me a little bit more into what this movie was going for. And obviously, we're going to get more from this director that we got, because he's going to be handling the X-Men, which I'm really excited about. But I think that this is a step that Marvel has taken in the right direction. And we'll see what happens in No Way Home. I think there's been some more confirmed stuff that's going on. I think Charlie Cox might be appearing. Who knows? They've been hiding it for a while, and maybe we're gonna get an appearance from Mr. Negative as the main villain, which is really exciting, and I'm really hopeful for Spider-Man: Brave New Day to be really good, especially since the Shang-Chi director is directing this, which I think he's gonna do a fantastic job with this.
Yeah, fantastic. My theory, and I know I've kind of mocked this a little bit, but every time a Marvel movie comes out, you got all these Marvel fans going, "Oh my goodness, Marvel is so back. This is the first good thing they've done in a long time." And then the next movie comes out and they're like, "Oh my goodness, Marvel is back." And it's I've kind of had this theory that people are just so easily impressed when it comes out, and then as soon as the next movie comes out, they're like, "Oh, that last one, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought." And I feel like that's kind of where Thunderbolts is going to eventually end up, because people went so crazy for it when it came out, but yet it didn't make nearly as much money as they thought. And now the Fantastic Four came out, and it is infinitely a better movie. I think a lot of people are going to look back on Thunderbolts and be like, "Was Thunderbolts that good?" Because that was the same thing that kind of happened with Captain America: Brave New World, and that didn't get a great response when that came out or anything. But
it got a worse response because Thunderbolts came out.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like when Marvel releases something, people are so quick to jump on the bandwagon of "that was amazing," that they don't actually objectively think, how amazing was it? Are you only comparing it to the past movies? At least we'll say with Fantastic Four, this is a good movie. It wasn't everything I wanted to be, but it was a good movie. So going forward, the benchmark has been set. And I don't feel like we're going to have a lot of these other Thunderbolt, crazes anymore because people now are at the point where like, oh, this is what it was supposed to be. Yeah, maybe Thunderbolts wasn't as good as I thought it was because this is actually good.
Well, again, like I said, I don't think Thunderbolts is fantastic. I think it's just good. I've never been on the train that it was a fantastic movie. I was always on the train that was good. If there's nothing else to add, we can transition over to my part where I wrap things up and maybe talk a little bit more about what's coming up, including some Clone Wars stuff. So we'll transition to that now. Fantastic Four! yeah. What a fantastic Four! What a great comment there. I forgot to mention there was one thing I do want to mention is Matt Shakman, who has directed this movie. He was actually the director for the whole show, WandaVision, that came out just a couple years back, and what basically sealed his job for this movie because originally John Watts was supposed to be directing this movie, but I've obviously had to step down because of what happened with Spider-Man and just him being tired. So. And then he also worked on Skeleton Crew, which I thought was not a bad show. But maybe we'll review it in the future. If you want Skeleton Crew, let me know. But, so yeah, credit to Max Shackman. He did a great job. I think a lot of the shots look great. Like, Galactus it looked really good with the way that he was directing it. And I'm getting the whole consensus of the people being like, Galactus is too small. Galactus is too small. He's supposed to be much bigger. Like, I don't care. Like, he was literally taller than the Statue of Liberty when on the water. So I think that he was scaled up perfectly to what he was supposed to be. And again, he had his big machine, which was great. I almost said the word again. Crap. Obviously for me, I'm gonna buy this movie. This movie is 5 out of 5. I am gonna reveal to you right now where it stands because I think it's actually really interesting to where I think that personally where I have it as been rated as a 4.5, which 4 stars out of 5, which is a lot better than Colin would do. I have this ranked as a top 5 movie. I have Winter Soldier as number 1, Infinity War as number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as number 3, and then Fantastic Four at the number 4 slot, which is honestly fitting, and then Captain America the First Avenger is number 5, which I think is a great top 5, and you can argue to the wall about it. As evolving with the whole comparison between which one is better, is this Superman better, or is Fantastic Four better? Now, like Colin, he got to watch this movie, watch Superman 2 times. He got to watch Fantastic Four once, which he will allude to catching up on a second time, which I think is going to be pretty cool to see if he changes his opinion on it, knowing that what he's going to get. I am on the consensus that obviously I ranked this higher. This is a better movie than Superman. Honestly, just the whole four just carried everything. Like, obviously, when we have Superman, like, there's a lot of great characters. We had Lex Luthor and Mr. Terrific carrying the movie. But the whole, I looked at both of them and I was like, did I want like a whole jokey, fun, out of character, big blockbuster, or did I want a serious, story driven, family dramatic movie? And I'm personally on the mood right now where I would have wanted a mature, great storytelling focused, character driven movie where these four have really great chemistry together, which I thought was great. And so I'm on the opinion that Superman is a little bit less than Fantastic Four, but the box office might not compare it otherwise. Yeah, depending on when this releases, we got more Clone Wars coming out. I'm just gonna take a quick peek as to what the next arc is, because I think it should be coming up soon. I'm not entirely sure. I'm actually gonna look up the message just to see. Yeah. I'm gonna see all, and then. Okay, so we got that, and then we got. I'm just gonna scroll up. And then I'm going to compare it to... there we go. We had Blue Virus, Ryloth, Utum Platoya. Where might our next one be next? I'm going to be editing all this out, so don't worry. You're not going to listen to me rambling for a long time. It's been a little bit. You got New Gunray that just released, so we're looking at about What is after New Gun Ray? I forget what is out. It's on my computer. I just don't want to look up on the... Wait, I could just look up on the file. What am I doing? Maybe I will leave this up because I feel like I'm an idiot right now. Where are we looking right now? Clone Wars 6, 7, 8. Okay, we have the Pirates arc. Pirates arc is coming out this week. It's coming out this week on Friday or Saturday, whatever I get time, and hopefully my computer doesn't crash it, so you get to hear me and call and talk about a lot of Pirates and Hondo. But yeah, that should be it for the Superman and Fantastic Four review. Thank you so much for your patience. Again, my computer is a bit older. I think it's like 20 or 30 years old, depending on looking at the screen right now. But everything is looking perfect at Chris right now, so I'm looking forward to getting the Pirates out, and we got more movies coming out. I probably will do a solo review of the bad guys too. I'm gonna be I got the movie ticket for free, so I'm gonna be seeing that, and I'll give you a little quick 10-minute, 20-minute review because I actually did like the first bad guys movie, so I'm looking forward to seeing that one come out. And that's a very cool, interesting little story twist, which I think is gonna be pretty awesome to see. Is there anything else that's coming out till September? I don't think so, but I know we're gonna be starting our bad movie months. We're gonna be recording those right away. We won't be revealing which those are because I already did in the pilot episode, which I know is discontinued. Well, it's not discontinued. It's just like you don't need to know any of the other information. We just talk a lot, so it's like pretty good. Most of the stuff is pretty similar. It's just like we're not doing Futurama or any of the other stuff. I'm basically rambling for on. We're gonna wrap this up here, and thank you so much for listening. This is a bit of a longer one, but I really appreciate all of you. My name is Patrick, and I won't save this podcast for the world, but I won't save this world for the podcast. Thank you for listening to the new episode of Cantina Cuisine. Make sure you follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to listen to new episodes coming out every week just for you. Also, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for updates and follow-ups to our episodes and other content that you might like. Again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Peace out, nerds.